Hej och välkommen. Welcome to the Scandinavian Cultural Center's Lucia celebration at Pacific Lutheran University for 2020. The Scandinavian Cultural Center community deeply values tradition and connections, and thus we would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Nisqually, Puyallup, Squaxin Island, and Steilacoom peoples. We acknowledge and respect the traditional caretakers of this land and their long and deep relationship with it. My name is Dr. Jason Schroeder. I am the director of the Scandinavian Cultural Center. This year has been a real challenge for all of us, and we've had to change how we do PLU's Lucia celebration. Founded in 1889, Pacific Lutheran University has a Nordic heritage and has been conducting Lucia celebrations since 1951, making the festival here nearly 70 years old. Since it was first introduced by Reverend E. Arthur Larson in 1951, various groups have conducted the celebration. Spurs, a sophomore student association since 1954, and the Scandinavian Cultural Center since the 1990s. We wish to thank Betty and Edgar Larson for their generous support, which makes this celebration possible, and for funding the Betty Barbara Larson Lucia Scholarship. Lucia was a Sicilian woman who was martyred for her devotion to Christ in AD 304. Her saint's day, December 13th, was once the longest night of the year in the old Julian calendar. In the dark of winter, in the northern places like Sweden, we can easily imagine the need for a saint that comes with light. In the 1800s, university students from the Lake Vänern region brought the tradition to Uppsala University and thus to mainstream Sweden. And in the 1920s, the celebration became nationally recognized. Today, Lucias bring light, songs, and baked goods to people, but it begins in the home with their own parents, as we will see. This year, the Lucia candidates decided they wanted to serve the local community during these difficult times. As one candidate, Maddie Lammers, wrote, "Lucia embodies light, food, and service." Thus, the candidates are fundraising for local food banks, in particular for Parkland, Washington's own Trinity Lutheran Church's feeding ministries. We urge you to give in solidarity to help our neighbors and community members. See the links in the description below. Because we cannot gather in person this year, we will combine scenes from previous year's Lucia celebrations with scenes from this year's Lucia candidates and narration from our own Lucia committee. We will begin by watching Lucia candidates from 2016 enter PLU's Eastfold Auditorium in Karen Hill Phillips Center as they process and sing the song, Sankta Lucia.
Today, we celebrate the Swedish tradition which began nearly 1700 years ago in 284 AD in Sicily, Italy. Somehow, this martyred saint for the blind made her way to Sweden. Lucia occurs December 13th. It signals the beginning of the Christmas season. Lucia was born to a prosperous family. She was generous, kind, and loyal. She wanted to be of service to her people, so she gave her dowry to the poor. There are many versions of the legend, but one says she can be seen wearing white with a ring of candles on her head, feeding the poor of the small villages on the darkest night of the year. Each year, a person is chosen to be our Lucia, who embodies the characteristics of charity, kindness, and dedication to the community. On the campus of Pacific Lutheran University, PLU, through the Scandinavian Cultural Center, we have students carrying on the tradition started in 1951 by Reverend E. Arthur Larson, the professor of Swedish. The practice caught on and is ongoing thanks to the many community volunteers who have assisted with the event. Thanks to Edgar and Betty Larson, we are able to fund this and future events, and renamed the scholarship Betty Barbara Larson Lucia Scholarship as a tribute for this generous gift. This year, Lucia participants want to help their local community for the local food banks. COVID-19 has affected those in need, and they wanted to be of service. Their goal is to raise funds benefiting the Emergency Food Network, Pierce County Food Bank, and Trinity Lutheran Food Pantry. Anyone wishing to donate to their cause should donate directly. We are so proud of our students. Let us look in and see how Lucia is celebrated in Scandinavian American homes this morning. Lucia begins early in the morning on December 13th, when all the children of the family gather together in the darkest part of the morning, just before dawn. The oldest daughter, Abigail, dresses in a long white gown with a red sash and places a crown of candles on her head. She, along with her siblings, Tabitha and Isabel, prepare a tray to serve their parents. In the midst of the cold and dark winter, Sankta Lucia brings the gift of light. The candlelighting ceremony has become a part of our Lucia celebration here at PLU. The 5 candles we light represent the virtues found in Lucia. The first candle we light is the candle of mercy. The legend of Lucia tells of her undying mercy towards those in need. May the spirit of mercy be reflected in our lives, and may it touch the lives of those around us. The second candle we light is the candle of purity. This candle burns in remembrance of Lucia's youthful innocence. May we, by radiance of this candle, be mindful to allow Lucia's childlike purity to permeate our thoughts and deeds. The candle of dedication is the third candle we light. Lucia was persecuted for her Christian faith, yet she remained steadfast, never allowing her dedication to waver. May our lives reflect the boldness and dedication as we face life's uncertainties. The fourth candle we light is the candle of faith. The light of faith shines in the night, illuminating our path and guiding our footsteps. May we, like Lucia, call upon our faith to guide and motivate our lives. The fifth and final candle is the candle of hope, commemorating the birth of a small babe whose birth, life, death, and resurrection bring hope for all time. May the candle of hope burn brightly this Christmas season and throughout the coming year.
At this time, we turn to Judy Scott, the current Scandinavian Cultural Center Council President, who will announce this year's Lucia Bride and Lucia Scholarship awardee.
Every year, PLU students volunteer to take part in the Sankta Lucia program to help create this beautiful and light-filled event for the entire campus and our greater community. A student who wishes to be considered for the Lucia Scholarship and to be our official Sankta Lucia must submit an essay and take part in an interview with the selection committee. This year's essay and interview topic asks them to describe concretely how they embody and articulate one of the core elements of Lutheran higher education in their lives at PLU and beyond. Lucia fits with PLU's mission statement to educate students for lives of thoughtful inquiry, service, leadership, care for persons, communities, and for the earth by focusing on light, food, and service. After reviewing essays, plus the personal interviews with each student, the selection committee faces the difficult task of choosing just one to be the PLU Sankta Lucia. Now, on behalf of the Scandinavian Cultural Center Council, it is my great pleasure to present the 2020 Betty Barbara Larson Sankta Lucia Scholarship to Maddie Lamwers, who is in her second year at Pacific Lutheran University and is majoring in history and elementary education. In her essay, she wrote, "In the past year, I have learned a lot of things about the world and myself. I have learned what it feels like to be part of a bigger community and how small the world really is. This year, I'm working hard to see the intrinsic value of the whole of creation." The Scandinavian Cultural Center Council and its members congratulate Maddie Lamwers as the 2020 Betty Barbara Larson Sankta Lucia Scholarship recipient.
We enter the last part of our Lucia video now. It's been a strange and difficult year, but we hope that you are cheered and lightened a bit by our festival. I remind you to donate to food banks here in Pierce County. See the links in the description below. We will conclude by watching the 2016 Lucias, sing some old favorites, and then watch them process from Eastfold. Normally, We would all then go to the Scandinavian Cultural Center here for buns, coffee, dancing, and fellowship. We can't do that, but we hope that you can join your loved ones wherever you are in fellowship and joy.
Ingen dager sigelse, stjärnorna på himmelen förlänka. Nu fröjd ut i vårt hus, vi tackar Lucia.